5 years had passed since Naomi Bennett stood alone at a class reunion in Atlanta, counting the minutes until she could disappear without anyone noticing her. 5 years since a Korean billionaire walked past every woman in that ballroom to find her near the drinks table. 5 years since two simple words changed the entire direction of her quiet, ordinary life forever. 5 years since she slid a check back across a table and refused to be bought into disappearing. 5 years since she stood in a press conference room and said yes to a question that stunned the entire world. If you could show that woman from the reunion her life today, she would never believe what she was seeing. Not because she lacked ambition, because Naomi Bennett had never once lacked ambition in her entire life. It was because there is a particular kind of happiness that exists outside what you allow yourself to imagine. Especially when the world spends years quietly teaching you to imagine smaller versions of your own future. The Kang family estate outside Seoul sat on a hillside that caught the morning light beautifully. Naomi had designed the renovations herself, spending 3 years on quiet and passionate work. The result was a space that belonged to her, to him, and to both of their cultures equally. West African textiles moved gently through Korean architectural tradition, the way two rivers slowly merge into something greater. This morning, like most mornings now, the garden was loud with laughter and small voices everywhere. Jae-woo was 5 years old, and he had inherited his father's quiet, observant stillness in a dangerous way. He deployed that stillness selectively, which meant when he was not still, he moved incredibly fast. Right now he had climbed 2/3 of the way up the persimmon tree at the garden's edge. His grandmother stood below him, negotiating in a mixture of Korean and English, and it was not going well for her. "Jae-woo, come down please," Sunya said with the patience of a woman repeatedly outmaneuvered by a 5-year-old. "I can see the river from up here," Jae-woo reported without making any effort to come down at all. "Yes, the river will still be there once you reach the ground safely. It looks different from up here than it does from down there, Halmione. Jae-woo, please come down from that tree right now, before you fall and hurt yourself badly." He looked down at her with his father's eyes and his mother's stubborn, determined expression. "I am being very careful up here, Halmione, I promise you that." Sunya looked at the tree for a long moment, then back at her grandson again. Then she did something the old version of herself would never have recognized as acceptable behavior. She sat down on the garden bench, crossed her ankles, and asked him to describe the view. "Fine, tell me what the river looks like from way up there," she said. Jae-woo smiled, a smile that was unmistakably and completely his mother's smile. "It looks like it is moving really fast, but also like it is not moving at all somehow." Sunya was quiet for a moment, genuinely considering what her grandson had just told her. "That is actually a very good observation for someone your age," she said. Across the garden, Min-ah was doing something serious to the flower beds, something the gardener would need to fix tomorrow morning. To her, it looked like extremely important scientific research that simply could not wait. She was 5 minutes younger than her brother, and she had arrived in this world impatient, determined to make up for lost time immediately. She had Naomi's curiosity and Jun-woo's intense focus, combined with a laugh that stopped grown adults completely in their tracks. Naomi stood at the kitchen window, watching all of this unfold with her coffee in hand. Jun-woo came up quietly behind her, the way he always did without ever needing to announce himself first. He stood beside her, looking out at his son in the tree and his daughter in the flowers. "Your son is in the tree again," Naomi said, smiling slightly without turning her head toward him. "Our son," he corrected gently, "is in the tree again, exactly like his father used to be. He gets the climbing from you," she said, watching Jae-woo negotiate his eventual descent from the branches. "He gets the negotiating skills from you," Jun-woo replied, watching his mother lose another argument completely. "He convinced my mother to let him stay up there a little longer," he added. "I saw the whole thing happen, and she is losing this particular grandparent war very badly indeed. She is losing it spectacularly, and she has never once been happier in her entire life," he said warmly. This was the life that magazine covers and luxury estates and business empires could never fully capture or explain. This was the ordinary, irreplaceable texture of a Tuesday morning that mattered more than anything else they owned. The tree, the flower beds, the grandmother losing arguments happily, the man standing beside her quietly. She was going to remember this exact morning later, though she did not know that yet. It was the housekeeper who eventually brought the envelope to the kitchen that same morning. Mrs. Park had worked for the Kang household for 11 years, with a face built to reveal absolutely nothing to anyone. "This arrived for you, Mrs. Kang," she said, holding out a small silver tray carefully. "Private courier," she added, no return address listed anywhere on the entire envelope. Naomi dried her hands and picked it up, noticing handwriting she did not immediately recognize at all. The handwriting was precise, controlled, the penmanship of someone trained rigorously rather than someone who simply wrote casually. She opened the envelope slowly and found only a single sentence written inside it. 8 words total, no greeting, no signature, nothing else accompanying them on the page whatsoever. "You took everything from me," it read, "and now it is time you learned exactly what that feels like." Naomi read it once, then read it again more slowly the second time through. She folded the paper carefully and placed it inside the pocket of her cardigan quietly. Through the window, Min-ah was laughing at something her brother had said to her. Soon you watched them both with an expression she no longer bothered to hide from anyone. Naomi looked at all of it, then looked down at her pocket again. She recognized the handwriting now, though she had not placed it immediately at first glance. She had spent 5 years building a life with no room left for that particular name, but the precision matched everything she remembered about the woman who once threw a phone against a wall in anger. Yi-Rin had returned, and the only real question now was what exactly she was planning to do next. She did not tell Jun-Woo about the letter, and she already knew this was a mistake. She told herself she did not want to worry him over something she could handle alone. What she did not yet understand was that handling it alone was precisely what Yi-Rin was counting on completely. The first sign that something was wrong arrived quietly from the school that Tuesday afternoon. It did not come dramatically, the way important things sometimes announce themselves with appropriate warning beforehand. It came the way most dangerous things actually arrive, through an ordinary phone call on an unremarkable day. Naomi was reviewing plans for a new commission when the homeroom teacher requested a call back immediately. She called back right away, setting her pencil down before the teacher even finished speaking. "Thank you for calling so quickly," the teacher said, with careful and deliberate gentleness in her voice. "I wanted to speak with you about something that happened in the garden today. Min-Ah had an incident with another student during their free time period. Nothing physical, I want to make that part very clear immediately. But some words were exchanged that I believe you should know about directly." "Tell me everything that happened, please," Naomi said, her voice remaining completely even and steady. "A boy in her class said something to Min-Ah near the sandbox area. He said his mother told him your family does not really belong here at all. He said your children are mixed up and they do not know what they actually are." Naomi said nothing for a long moment, feeling something cold settle deep in her chest. "Where is Min-Ah right now, this very moment?" she asked the teacher quietly. "She is with me and she has been very quiet since it happened earlier. She has not cried, but she keeps asking to call you directly." "I am coming right now," Naomi said, already moving toward her car keys. She drove with controlled focus, placing every feeling into a container she would deal with later. Min-Ah was sitting in the teacher's office with her hands folded carefully in her lap. The moment Naomi walked through the door, her daughter's face finally crumpled completely. Naomi crossed the room quickly and knelt down in front of her daughter immediately. "Hi baby," she said softly, taking both of Min-Ah's small hands gently. "I heard what happened today and I want you to tell me how you feel." "He said we do not know what we are," Min-Ah said carefully and slowly. "But I know exactly what I am, Mommy, and I am not confused at all." "Yes, you do know exactly what you are," Naomi said, her throat tightening completely. "I am Min-Ah Kang, and I am Korean and Nigerian, and I speak 3 languages fluently. Halmione is teaching me to make japchae, and Grandma Grace makes me jollof rice in Atlanta. Daddy says I can become an architect or an astronaut, and I do not see why I cannot become both things." "That is exactly what you are, every single piece of that description," Naomi managed to say. "So that boy was wrong about everything he said to me today," Min-Ah concluded firmly. "He was completely wrong," Naomi confirmed, holding her daughter close against her chest. Naomi held herself together until they reached the safety of the car together. Then she allowed herself 30 seconds with her eyes closed before starting the engine. That evening, after the twins were finally asleep, Naomi sat in her studio quietly. She opened her laptop and began checking what was surfacing online about her family. There were 3 small articles on accounts she did not recognize at all. The following seemed assembled rather than organic, with suspiciously round and uniform numbers attached. Sources close to the Kang family question whether the marriage is truly stable, one article suggested carefully. She recognized this structure immediately, because she had survived something similar once before already. This was not spontaneous internet commentary, appearing naturally from random concerned citizens online. This was the beginning of something coordinated and carefully built by someone with experience. She understood now what everything meant to a woman like Yi-Rin completely. Naomi's ongoing, visible happiness was a daily rebuttal of the story Yi-Rin needed to believe. In Atlanta, at roughly the same hour, Vanessa Whitmore was doing something she had promised herself she would stop doing. She was looking at Naomi's Instagram account again, despite every promise made in therapy sessions. The image tonight showed the twins from behind, running through golden garden light together. Vanessa stared at the photograph for a long time without moving at all. Her therapist, Dr. Osai, had asked her an important question during their last session together. "The question is not why Naomi's happiness bothers you so deeply," Dr. Osai had said carefully. "The real question is what it reminds you of that you have not yet resolved within yourself." Vanessa had admitted she spent years building the appearance of a life instead of building the actual thing. And what would it mean, Dr. Osa had asked gently, to finally build the actual thing? Her phone buzzed suddenly with an unknown international number flashing on the screen. Something tightened in her chest, the specific feeling of a door reopening from her past. She knew without answering exactly who was calling her at this particular hour. The phone buzzed again, more insistent this time, demanding her attention directly. She sat with the buzzing phone in her hand for a long, considering moment. Dr. Osai's voice echoed in her mind, asking what it would mean to build something real. She looked again at the photograph of the twins running through that golden light together. The phone eventually stopped buzzing, falling silent on the table in front of her. Vanessa set the phone face down deliberately, then picked it up again immediately afterward. She scrolled through her contacts until she found a name she had not called in 3 years. She found Madison's number and pressed call before she could talk herself out of it. "Hey," she said when Madison answered, "I need to talk to someone important. Are you free right now by any chance to talk for a moment?" "Yeah," Madison said simply. "I am free whenever you need me to be." It was a small choice, a phone call instead of answering that other number waiting. But in the accumulation of small choices, sometimes the entire direction of a life changes completely. Somewhere in Seoul, however, a very different phone call was being answered right then. Yirin had been waiting patiently, with the patience of someone who never forgot what caused her original loss. And when the call connected, she began speaking immediately, setting everything into motion deliberately. Jun-woo found the letter on an ordinary Thursday afternoon, completely by accident. Naomi had not been careless about hiding it, moving it 3 separate times for safety. The third location was the inside pocket of her winter coat, hanging quietly in storage. She chose it because it was September, and the coat would not be needed soon. Jae-woo, however, had recently developed an interest in what he called exploring everything. He decided the bedroom wardrobe was unexplored territory with significant frontier potential waiting inside. His father found him there, retrieving his son from between the hanging winter coats carefully. In that process, Jun-woo's hand found something in a pocket that should not exist. He read the letter completely in the time it took his son to wander away. 1 sentence, 8 words total, no explanation accompanying it anywhere on the page. He found Naomi in the studio working on her cultural center plans quietly. She knew the moment he entered, recognizing the particular weight he carried into the room. When did this arrive, he asked her, his voice completely level and controlled throughout. 10 days ago, she admitted, setting down her pencil to face him directly. 10 days, he repeated slowly, and you were going to tell me eventually. I was handling it myself, she said, meeting his gaze without flinching at all. We are 5 years into this marriage, and we have 2 young children together now. Whatever Yirin is planning, she is not planning it only against you alone. She is planning it against all of us together, and I needed to know immediately. You are right, Naomi said quietly, accepting the truth of what he said completely. He looked at the cultural center plans spread across her drawing board carefully. The articles, he said, referring to what his team had flagged the previous day. My team flagged them yesterday, and I was waiting for you to mention the letter first. I was giving you time to come to me on your own. She wanted you focused on the letter, distracted from something bigger happening elsewhere completely. The letter was not a warning, he said. It was a deliberate distraction from something larger. While you watched for direct threats, the actual campaign was building somewhere else entirely. The project, Naomi realized suddenly, looking again at her cultural center plans with new understanding. My team is already looking into it, he confirmed. We will handle this together completely. That is not a negotiation, he added firmly, taking her concerns seriously immediately. The man Jun-woo called next was Ethan Brooks, the investigative journalist from years before. I was wondering when you would call me about this exact situation, Ethan said immediately. I started watching 3 weeks ago when the first suspicious account appeared online. The pattern matches what I documented back in 2021 almost exactly. But something is different this time. The infrastructure feels far more sophisticated than before. Whoever is running this learned valuable lessons from what happened the first time around. Yirin, Jun-woo said, naming the obvious suspect without hesitation at all. That is my assumption, Ethan confirmed, but she's not working entirely alone this time. I found a second source, American, with less clean digital fingerprints than Yirin's own. But the pattern connecting them together is completely unmistakable to anyone looking closely. They found each other again somehow, Ethan said after everything that happened years earlier. What do you need from me? Jun-woo asked, ready to provide whatever resources were necessary. Access to your team's documentation from 2021 would help enormously with context. I need you to stay quiet publicly while I follow the money trail completely. 2 weeks, maybe 3, before I have everything fully assembled and ready. 2 weeks, Jun-woo said firmly, and Ethan agreed to that specific timeline immediately. What neither man knew was that timeline would soon be compressed dramatically by an unexpected variable. That variable arrived in the form of a woman named Jae-yoon from Yirin's past. Jae-yoon had been Yirin's assistant years earlier, present for everything that happened then. She had carried the weight of that silence for 5 long years afterward. She had left Yirin's employment 8 months after the original exposure happened publicly. She built a smaller, quieter life that did not require constant self-justification anymore. Then 3 weeks ago, Yirin called her requesting an urgent meeting unexpectedly. Jae-yoon understood immediately that the meeting was not professional in any real sense. She told Yirin she would think about it carefully before deciding anything. She thought about it for 3 full weeks before making her final decision. Then on a Friday morning, she called Ethan Brooks directly herself. My name is Jae-yoon, she said. I used to work for Yirin personally. I think I have something you need to see immediately, she told him. Tell me everything, Ethan said, going completely still on his end of the call. It took 2 hours for Jae-yoon to explain everything she remembered clearly. She spoke carefully, every detail precise, every timeline accurate and well documented. Financial transfers, email threads, a recorded phone call proving fabrication of sources entirely. Most significantly, records of new transfers beginning 8 weeks ago, flowing from Yoo-rin's accounts. She's doing it again, Jae-yoon said, but bigger with an American partner this time. Ethan looked at his screen, matching the routing number to evidence his own investigation found. The American partner, he realized, he just needed a name attached to that account. Meanwhile, across the city, Kang Soon-yi sat in a coffee shop near Hongdae. She was meeting someone she had not seen in 5 years, someone with information. The woman talked for 30 minutes while Soon-yi listened without interrupting once. Then Soon-yi called Naomi directly, not her own son first. "I need to come to the house immediately," she said when Naomi answered the phone. Naomi recognized the urgency in her voice immediately, despite the composed surface underneath. "Come now," Naomi said simply, already preparing herself for whatever news was coming. Soon-yi arrived within the hour, walking into the house with familiar, comfortable ease. Minar immediately attached herself to her grandmother's leg with cheerful, affectionate possessiveness. "Later, my love," Soon-yi said gently. "I need to talk to your mother first." She sat across from Naomi at the kitchen table, speaking without any preamble whatsoever. Yoo-rin has been meeting with members of a media consortium recently. 3 meetings in the past 6 weeks, conducted carefully through trusted intermediaries throughout. The consortium is connected to the same network she used back in 2021. They are planning something for the cultural center launch happening in 4 weeks. Naomi went completely still, realizing the launch was her most visible project yet. If someone wanted to cause maximum damage with minimum warning beforehand, this was it. "The launch is when they will move," Soon-yi confirmed, based on what her contact believed. "A coordinated release of articles questioning the marriage and your suitability entirely, whether the project represents genuine cultural exchange or simple personal opportunism instead." The cruelty of it was architectural, Naomi realized, understanding the structure immediately and completely. "She has been planning this since the twins were born," Soon-yi said quietly. 4 years of patient waiting for the right moment to strike. Naomi sat with that realization, then something settled firmly in her chest. Not hardness, but something simpler and far more durable than hardness ever could be. Clarity, she realized. She knew exactly what needed to happen now. "Call Jun-woo," she told Soon-yi. "Tell him everything you just told me. I'm going to call the launch committee and move the briefing up immediately. If they plan to move at the launch, we change the launch entirely ourselves. We do not wait for them to control the moment, we take it back." "Yes," Soon-yi said simply, "do exactly that without any hesitation whatsoever." Ethan published his investigation 11 days later, 2 days before the rescheduled launch happened. He assembled everything carefully, Jae-yoon's documentation, financial records, routing numbers leading directly to Vanessa. The piece published at 7 in the morning, picked up by 6 outlets by 9. By noon, it was absolutely everywhere across every platform and news outlet imaginable. This time, the public remembered everything from before, and they were far less patient. Yoo-rin learned about the article from her phone in her apartment quietly. She did not throw her phone this time, sitting still and reading everything carefully. She thought about Jae-yoon, realizing she had badly underestimated her former assistant completely. Her father called at 9:15 that same morning, his voice measured and serious. "Is it finished?" he asked her directly. "Are you done rewriting a story that already ended?" "Yes," she said quietly. "It is finished. I am completely done with this." "Good," her father said. "Come home immediately. We need to talk properly." Vanessa's reckoning arrived through her husband Gerald, who found out from a colleague's text message. He came downstairs with his phone in hand, asking if the article was true. "Yes," she said honestly, "it is true. It happened before I met you. I can explain the context, but I will not use it as an excuse." "Did you love him?" Gerald asked, referring to her first husband from years earlier. "I think I loved the life," she admitted. "I confused those two things completely." "Do you love me?" he asked directly, watching her face carefully for the answer. "Yes," she said without hesitation, completely and totally, more than anything else. "This is going to be a difficult few weeks ahead of us," he said. "We will get through it together," he added, "but I need a promise. When her name comes up anywhere, I need you to practice radical disengagement completely. She gets to live her life and you get to live yours separately." "Okay," Vanessa said, and this time she meant it completely and permanently. Naomi's phone had been buzzing since 7 that morning, but she ignored it deliberately. She made breakfast for her children instead, focused on uniforms and sock negotiations entirely. This was the thing no scandal could ever touch or take away from her. Jun-woo appeared in the doorway at 7:45 with important news to share. "It is over," he said simply. "Ethan's piece is comprehensive, and the evidence is complete." "I know," she said, turning back to her children calmly and completely. The cultural center launched 2 weeks later on a clear Seoul afternoon. The building stood exactly as she had drawn it months earlier in her studio. Korean and West African architectural elements existed together without diminishing each other at all. Grace and Marcus flew in from Atlanta, standing in the entrance hall together happily. Soon Yi and Min Seok stood easily together, comfortable after 5 years of practice. Jai-woo looked up at the building, asking his mother quietly if she made this. I did, she said, watching her son process the building around him slowly. When I grow up, he said carefully, I want to make something people can stand inside. That is the best reason to build anything, she told him, meaning every single word completely. Min-ah looked up at her mother, asking why people always say she is brave, because sometimes people will not believe in you until you believe in yourself first. Believing in yourself when nobody else does takes practice, but you get better at it. I already believe in myself, Min-ah announced proudly, drawing a laugh from her father immediately. Jun-woo laughed fully, the unguarded version, moving through the entrance hall warmly. Naomi looked at her family, the building, the city beyond the glass completely. They mocked her for being single, they tried to destroy her marriage completely. They came for her children, they attacked everything she built with patience. Through all of it, she remained exactly who she had always been entirely. The woman on the pharmacy steps who sat down because a stranger needed someone kind. The greatest victory was never becoming Mrs. Kang. It was never stopping being herself. If this family's story has meant something to you, leave a comment below now. Tell us which moment you will remember longest from this entire journey together. Subscribe so you are here for whatever comes next in this story. Share this with someone who needs reminding that doubters are writing the wrong story entirely.